away the tail now.
The inside of Coates.
Barker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Hello everyone and welcome to the VRRC League of Champions. We are here with the DTM Cup for this is indeed round 3 here at Nurburgring GP. My name is Daniel Handover. Joining me in the commentary box this evening is the wonderful and fantastic Mr. Dave Marshall. Dave, how are you doing this evening?
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad, Dan. Pleasure as always. Hope you keep well.
I'm absolutely fantastic, thank you. Excited for another round of the DTM Cup. We have seen some incredible racing in the last 2 rounds, and as you can see, the track map coming through, a mixture of slow corners, fast corners, medium speed corners, chicanes, hairpins, you name it, Nürburgring has got it. We're going to see some interesting developments, I think, with these cars we've got, because Dave, as you know, and as we've spoken about for the previous rounds, all these cars behave a little bit differently each track we go to.
Yeah, for sure, and I think, you know, looking back on the previous 2 rounds, we'll go to this track and it's probably the best balance of all the cars together. So by that I mean, you know, I reckon this is probably going to be the track where we see the closest time between all the different variations of the car. You know, we've got the Alpha that, yeah, it's maybe a bit of a brute, it's a bit sluggish, but it's 4-wheel drive and extremely consistent a lap. You've got the Merc, which seems to be a bit more planted than the BMW. It's not as rear-end biased, and we're seeing from Robin Walters in practice, you know, he's pedaling that machine very, very well at the moment, and actually currently ahead of the BMWs on the timing sheet. So I think it's going to be really a one to watch and see where each car's stronger on track, because I think it's going to be really hard to find an outright car that's the best.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to find out in not very long, because qualifying is just about to get underway. Before we do get on with qualifying, though, we've actually got the previous round. This is the current championship standing. So Michael Epps with Team 1010 Coaching still leading the way. However, he is only leading by 7 points to Mr. Jack McIntyre, who has... He's not. I don't think we saw the performance that we normally see from Jack there last week, did we, Dave? But I think that does have an effect, you know, with the ballast that we've got here, which we'll talk a little bit more in a short while. Yeah, it wasn't the. I don't think we were expecting the performance from him last week as that we saw. No,
I mean, you're right in what you said. You know, the Beamer had ballast on. To be fair, a lot of the other cars had ballast on as well. But I think, you know, looking at the performance of last week, it wasn't that he didn't have the performance, it just the last track at Hockenheim seemed like it took a bit more of an advantage on the other car he was versing. So, you know, if you've only got a 10th over the car in front of you, it's very hard to pass at Hockenheim, where, you know, you sort of need that 2 and a bit tenths faster to really get that overlap and get their moves done. So I think it was just the fact that he couldn't really progress like we've seen at the other tracks with the ballast he had on board. But, you know, fair play to him, it was still a very, very good points haul. You know, and he sat there in second place, took a huge chunk out of Michael Epps's lead, because Mike obviously had the the issue in race 1, which meant he had to pit. So yeah, it's really closed the championship down, and I'm already foreseeing that, you know, if Mike doesn't go to Spa with a big enough advantage, you know, the Alpha with its straight line performance is really going to struggle along that straight. So, you know, the Alpha needs a strong finish here. But as I say, I think this is probably the track where all the cars are probably the most even.
Well, it's interesting to see. Obviously, you've done most of the testing that we have seen. So, yeah, I'm excited to see it because I've not driven these cars before. I've never driven these cars. So I'm excited to see how we do get on. But before qualifying does get underway, obviously the League of Champions, it goes through lots and lots of different championships. This is the particular one, obviously DTM Cup, as you can see here. So we're at Nurburgring, and the last round is at the fantastic Spa. But what I'd like to do, Dave, is again just leave you to talk about a little bit more about the League of Champions itself, what it goes through, obviously the different disciplines, and also we've got some incredible prizes on offer as well, haven't we?
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, it's sort of self-explanatory on screen, but essentially it's 4 championships over 4 months, and it all correlates to one overall league. So instead of having individual prizes, I mean, there is prizes for first, second, and third in each individual championship. So UK Porth for Bath Classic, DTM, and TT Cup. But you know, there's trophies and caps for the top 3 of them. But then the main prizes are for the actual overall league standings at the end of the championship. So that's sort of where all the drivers are thinking. They're thinking, you know, there's certain championships that they might not be so strong in. So some drivers struggle in single seaters, others really prefer the tin tops, some are better in these older cars. And it really just lends to having a driver who's top at the end that is overall strong throughout the whole set of 4 championships. So yeah, it takes a bit of its inspiration from the Race of Champions, which is obviously where the best drivers from around the world come into a stadium format, you know, battle it out in the same car, and you end up with a driver at the end that is the most rounded driver. So that's sort of where we get it from. But yeah, it's just nice for drivers to take part in a league where they get to drive different cars on a regular basis, and you know, it makes it interesting and fresh for all the drivers.
That's very true. Do you know what? Actually, talking the Race of Champions, do you know what? You've actually just reminded me. I remember going to watch the Race of Champions when it was in the UK, back when obviously we can, you know, actually be in a group of more than 5.
Yeah, down at Wembley.
It was at Wembley because there was there was a kart race beforehand, which I took part in as well, and I remember that. I don't know why I've forgotten about it, but you've just. And we've just been told as well, Mike Yao on our broadcast, who's performing so amazing camera, he actually ran that event. I participated in the karting event. It was a 2.5 hour enduro style race in the I believe they were Rotax karts. It was D-Max karts, and it was just so basically what they are. Just to give you a little bit of background on that, it's basically just detuned junior Rotax engines. Again, they're mega fast for arrive and drive karts. They're, you know, the fastest you can get in the UK, but they were absolutely amazing. And I literally, as you said that, Dave, that's just reminding me. So there you go, a little bit of useless information for you that you're not going to need. But qualifying, a very frosty morning by the looks of it, isn't it, at the moment? Or a very frosty day, I should say, afternoon even. Actually, if I get the time right.
It's very seasonal, isn't it? It's very seasonal. But we can clarify that, you know, the road temps are still, you know, relatively high, and the drivers won't struggle to keep temps in. It is literally a visual thing that makes it a little bit more seasonal. So
yes, no, I quite like it. I quite like the change. As you say, seasonal in terms of visual, but we're keeping, you know, so the drivers don't have too much of a hard time controlling these cars. We just had some people on the stream as well. So we got Mark Fletcher saying what an intro that is. And that was with the new Sim Sports intro. Again, absolutely fantastic. So credit to again Mike Yao on the broadcast, putting in some really good looking. We've got adverts there. We've also had Dave Jones as well saying good evening, guys. So good evening, Dave. Hope you are doing well and looking forward to an evening's worth of fantastic racing from what we have seen. And to be fair, yes, I remember you, Dave. Actually, we've just been told as well, but I remember you missed the start of the race last time out. So hopefully you went back and watched that, because that was just full of. It was just we couldn't keep up. But yeah, qualifying is underway. I forget we have a race. Qualifying is underway. We've got 15-minute qualification rounds, so 12 minutes left. Edmondson, though, has just put the time on the board. Again, obviously, we're going to see these times actually start to come down quite drastically because tyres are starting to warm up. But looking through the practice, Dave, I believe it was, I can't remember who was saying was on top of the standing. Was it
Robin Walters? Yeah, so Robin, you know, he's been one of the drivers that we've been seeing, especially in the DTM, has really sort of come out of his shell, and he's really, you know, driving the absolute wheels off it, really. And he was top of the timing sheet. So, you know, he was the only driver to nudge into them 207s, which, it's a hell of a pace, and he's sitting 5th overall in the championship standings. So, he has a good round here. If he has 2 good, strong races, he could really be in with a championship contention, at the end of Spa. So, yeah, a very impressive drive for him. So that's definitely the driver to look for in qualifying. And off the timing sheet, I think it's going to be extremely close between Mike Epps and Jack Mack as well. But that's not a rule out the other likely people of, Robbie Stapleford, Jordan Brennan, any driver really can quite easily put it on pole, I would have said.
Well, we're going to find out in a second, because the times are going to start coming in. The really times where everyone's, like I said, got the tyres up to temperature. And again, we had this last week. I believe it was actually Jack McIntyre. We've got his live camera for what we were seeing when they were racing. We've got Andy Carroll now, as you can see, just in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen now. Currently with the car that's on focus, the glorious, look at the spit of flames. I would never get bored of that ever in my life. I would never get bored of seeing spits of flames come out from an old Alpha DTM car. And you can actually see Andy driving his car in real time. And to be fair, if you look at the actual, there's no delay at all. This is actually live. This is as live as it can possibly be. So that's really, really cool to see. I'm excited to see these more coming through in the stages. That's very, very wide going through. That was, I believe, that was turn 12, the Warsteiner curve. I'm going to hopefully not butcher these names too much. But no, really good stuff. If you see Jack McIntyre, look at that, put in a 2:07.8, and Mike Epps less than a second behind, although the gap a little bit bigger than I thought.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that there, just while Andy's just gone through it there, through that chicane is where the Alpha is going to be probably the strongest car. It's really quite bumpy there, and with the Alpha being four-wheel drive, you can just afford to keep that throttle on through there and really power through that chicane. But yeah, as you say, we're seeing Jack Mack there. It's not unusual. He comes to quali, and he just ups his game again. We hadn't seen him go into them 207s prior to quali, and then he's gone in and gone 0.2 faster. But as I say that, there's Robin Walters with that 2:07.7. So, there's Robin just getting in his stride now. So, I like to say I sort of saw that coming a little bit. Robin had been fast in practice, but yeah, I mean, by 0.035 a second, it's nothing. So this could be down to run down to turn 1. Yeah,
well, we're going to, like I said, we've got just under 9 minutes left to go on. Look at, wow, we've got Max Emerson backing the car in. That was going through into turn 11. And again, a great hood shot there. And then we go to Dave. This is your personal favourite camera, isn't it?
Oh yeah, the Duke wheel cam, as we'll go. The classic 90s Duke Tourer era of BTCC. Stick a camera on the passenger door, the driver's door, and watch the wheel. But yeah, it's interesting there that we were just on board with Max Edmondson there. These cars, as we're seeing, getting very bounced over by the curbs through the chicane there. So he's going to put that in the pits and get a new fresh set of tyres and go back out for the remaining 8 minutes of quali. You'll notice when he went into that previous corner there, if you try and brake these cars too late into the corner, the car really wants to push on. So the key is getting on the brake nice and hard and starting to actually blend off to let the front end turn in by itself, and then you can feed in the power with a little bit of oversteer. So that was maybe Max just slightly overdriving the car there and pushing the car on a bit too much.
Yeah, no, like I said, you've got to sort of teeter on that real edge of balance of grip. I think as well, some like the Alphas, we see Mick Sutton there with another onboard shot, as it were, in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And we see Mick Sutton, he's got triples as well, very nice. Yeah, you sort of have to really explore the limits of grip. Look at the glowing brake discs as well. You can tell that these guys are absolutely on the limit. It's one of those things where qualifying is 110%. Absolutely flat out. There is nothing left to give with these cars and with these guys when they're in qualifying. So the pace that you can see in qualifying is the absolute pace that they've got, and they're extracting absolutely everything that they can from the car. But yeah, you almost have to, I think, yeah, you're driving it on the throttle, you're constantly on that sort of edge of grip. I think, though, there does seem to be a little bit of leeway if the car does start to go. We see Mick Sutton jumping the bits. He's going to decide to go for a fresh set of tyres. But yeah, there's that sort of like, I always find there's a bit of a window where you can save the car if you go a little bit too deep into a corner, although it's probably not as big as some cars.
Yeah, so that exact thing what you're on about, running the corner a little bit deep, almost getting a bit of a V on the corner. So you go in slightly, a bit quick, really sharpen the corner off, get the car rotating, then get on the power nice and hard. In the Mercedes and the Beamer, that style tends not to work too well, but the Alpha, that's where it's really strong. As we see John Brent absolutely throwing it through the Schumacher S's there. He really grabs the grabs the car, doesn't he, and just throws it through the corners with a load of throttle, which is what we like to see. Makes it definitely entertaining. But yeah, the Alpha, as I say, definitely suits the style where you V the corners off a little bit more and really use that traction on exit. And for the Beamers and the Mercedes that follow an Alpha doing that, you know, that really upsets the rhythm of the pack and the cars, because, you know, the Beamers wanting to carry that mid-corner speed, the Alpha slows it down and uses its traction on exit, and the Beamer then struggles to get back on the power, and, you know, you end up with an Alpha that starts to pull away on the straight. So, you know, for all the Alphas slow down the straights, you know, for a smart driver that's got a bit of racecraft, we can really see a driver use the Alpha's strengths to its advantages and hold the gap. As we see, Andy Dorman there, absolutely perfect on the inside there, four-wheel drifting it round. The drivers are really having a bit of fun with these cars, aren't they?
Yeah, they are indeed. I mean, to be fair, it's hard not to, isn't it? It's hard not to have fun when you're driving something like this, because I'd absolutely love to drive these cars. Again, you've got Jack McIntyre in that you see a deep sigh almost, trying to sort of get his composure to get the lap on, but he's now got in. That's P2 still, but he's only 300ths off. So he's a little bit closer, I believe, than what he was in his previous laps. So yeah, 207.816 is now the gap. I mean, again, we've seen it. Look at the gap, though, between McIntyre and then Ebbs. You've got, that's 0.8 of a second. I mean, that's a big margin. And it then gets really quite close from sort of third to about, I'd probably say, well, that's third to fifth. There's about a second between that, maybe a little bit less. So, I mean, Robin Walters and Jack McIntyre, they are just at the moment, with 4.5 minutes left to go, in a class of their own.
Yeah, I mean, we are seeing that, but that's not to say the other drivers won't narrow that gap. I think it's maybe just the fact they haven't quite found the floor. We've seen the likes of Mike Epps and Jordan Brennan both do times closer to that 207 bracket, so maybe it's just a case that they haven't quite hooked the lap up yet or not. But it's really nice to see. You know, you've got Mercedes, BMW, Alpha, BMW, Mercedes, Alpha. So the cars actually have a really nice separation. But, you know, Mike Epps currently starting second row on the grid. You know, we're seeing how them cars are off the line with a four-wheel drive. This could be one where Mike Epps is going to go straight for the aggression into turn one, get the job done, and then go super defensive for the rest of the race.
Well, I think, yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head there, Dave. As you can see, we've got Max Edmondson. Look at that. Edmondson goes currently now in P3. So his last lap time was a 2:08.273. So he was 4 tenths quicker than Mike Epps, who is currently on a flying lap, I should remind everyone. So we're hopefully going to see some more time in his car at the moment. But yeah, like you said, Dave, you hit the nail on the head. Even Mike Epps being in fourth position, he's still the highest placed Alpha. There is a good chance that he's going to be at least in the podium position, potentially leading by turn one. We know what these cars are like, and yeah, as you say, the drive that these cars have got at the start is just second to none, and nothing can touch it. It doesn't matter how good you launch the BMW or you launch the Mercedes, there is absolutely nothing that you can do to stop, let's be honest, what is the powerhouse of the Alpha.
Yeah, I mean, you're right in what you said. Like, going down to turn one, I'll be thinking, make sure I'm on at least the second row of the grid. If I can improve it, then brilliant. But make sure I'm starting second row on the grid. And I think you've got to decide, as you set off, you need to be like, right, that corner is mine. I'm going for it. Because we know the Alpha isn't always necessarily the strongest on the brakes either, with it being the heavier car. So, you know, focus on getting that launch. You're probably going to have a driver defend that inside line extremely early. As we see Paul Army just get a little bit on the grass coming out of, I believe that was turn 6 going into turn 7. As we're sitting on board with our pulsator. What a brilliant view that is, supplied by the broadcaster Mike Yao. You know, brilliant onboard footage there to show really how smooth Robin is with the car. You know, it's nowhere near as aggressive as Jordan on throttle. It's not getting sideways, it's just letting the car be patient, really carrying the mid-corner speed and, you know, keeping the flow of the car essentially. Extremely late on the brakes down to turn one. You can see the car's trying to almost step the back end out there into turn one. It's going to get on the power, no oversteer there into the off-camber turn 2. So this is probably the point on track where I would say the Beam is going to really struggle off the start to keep that back end really under check, whereas the Mercedes and the Alpha are a lot more planted as a car.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm actually, do you know what? I'm almost mesmerised by how Robin is currently keeping the car in check. There is just absolutely no... It's almost like he's driving a modern day GT3 car. Like, there's just no movement in the wheel at all. Again, he pitches the car, a little bit of four-wheel push there, with the front end is just getting a little bit unhappy with the car. But again, he checks it up really nicely going through. That's turn 7. And he just composes it and turns the car, and off he goes. It's sort of like the car he's, at the moment, it's almost, he's really as one with the car, as they say. And again, you see how deep he's driving into the corner. That's one thing that's a little bit interesting. He does go a little bit wide, though, although he does, again, keep it in check. And I think it really revolves around, and you can tell that straight away in his driving day, that he's got patience with this car. Like, he knows to allow the front end to come around. It did look a little bit, going through the Dunlop hairpin, turn 8, it did look like he went a little bit too deep. But again, he just waited for the car to respond well to the front end, get the car to pitch in, and then on the throttle, and off he went. So
yeah, I think that was what you were saying before, though, about running the V into the corner. I think it was actually intentional that he ran that deep, so that when he put on the lock mid-corner, it was one rotation, one movement, and that, on a telemetry graph you'd see that as a nice C-curve, get the car rotated, blend on the throttle and then out, which is almost the best run you can do. So yeah, I'm really impressed with actually the way Robin's really handling this car, because any real racer or any engineer would tell you the fastest way of driving a car is with as little steering input as possible. You look at the fastest go-karters in the world, or any BTCC on board, and the rotation of the car is done on the brakes, and they're just trying to keep that steering wheel as straight as possible, get the most traction and the best exit possible.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, like I said, it was great to see. Robin actually doesn't improve on his current time, but he is pole provisionally. Qualifying is over. We had Mick Sutton there. He didn't look particularly happy with that. Like you see, shaking his head a little bit there. I really do quite like this, having the drivers. Oh, a little bit of racing, the Japs. That's not the idea. That's not the ideal line there, guys. That was Isaac Smith, and he's darted into the pit, so he will not be completing his lap. So at the moment, he stays provisional 6th position. Mike Epps has just put a time in, and it was about 0.3 quicker than his previous best. So he is now only half a second off. So even closer, we definitely have started to find his feet. But the man on his last flying lap is Jack McIntyre. So he's got two more corners to go. But I think, to be fair, actually looking at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, yes, he looks to be racing one-handed, which, if he is going to put a lap on the board, that's very, very impressive. But he doesn't. I think that is him out. So, yeah, I mean, Robin Walters, he just knows the car and how to drive it. But yeah, like you were saying, Dave, actually, a few more people have found their feet. They seem to have found their feet with the car, and I think Mike Epps was one of them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was expecting to see the rest of the pack close up a little bit, but I think that really shows you just sort of, with a bit of seat time and, a bit of sort of practice. Robin Walters said, he's not really enjoying this car in the first race. So it'd be really interesting to see if we try and get an interview with him after quali and see whether he's just found the way to drive it, or whether, he still thinks it's a bit of a pig, but maybe it's rather rewarding to drive. I don't know, but we'll wait and see if we get an interview with him.
Well, absolutely, and I believe we do actually have him ready to go. So, Dave, if you want to have a chat with him, let's find out what he thinks of that quality.
Yeah, show him the question, see what he says. Right, and I believe in the comms box, do we have Robin Walters sat there?
We do indeed.
How are we doing, Robin? A very, very impressive pole up there.
Yeah, I'm as surprised as probably anybody else, to be fair.
I mean, I don't want to go back to it, but I mean, I think it was race 1 where we had an interview with you, and you said you weren't gelling with the car, it didn't feel very good, and then, we were on board for a whole lap there with you, and, really smooth inputs, you got the car underneath you, looks really controlled, like, it really looks like you've actually gelled with the car, and the lap time has shown that.
I must admit, it was a really good lap that I managed to put together, but I was worried because I've been watching Jack in practice, and I knew he had splits for a high 7, a similar lap time that I'd done, and I wasn't sure whether I could replicate the 7.7 that I did in practice, and the first flying lap that I did, and I managed to just nail it and get it together for a lap. Yeah.
I mean, I'll go back to it. How do you feel in the car now? Is the car still a real handful to drive? Is it, one of them cars where you struggle a bit for consistency, or is it a car that you sort of adapted to and you're sort of getting used to it now?
think so. A large part of this is actually down to the track. This is definitely one of my strongest tracks, if not my strongest track. So
right,
didn't need much practice, to be fair. I knew it like the back of my hand, so that really helps. And then there is I think you're aware. I don't know, we've talked about it, and there was a dilemma between running traction control and not.
Yeah.
Turns out I was running quickly without traction control as I am with traction control, but right in the end of practice I did the 7.7 with traction control on, and that made my mind up. So that's probably one of the reasons why I'm looking quite smooth and stable.
Right, fair enough. I mean, is that something that, you're thinking about the launch? You're going to run traction off to maybe get the better launch down to turn 1 and then turn it back on? Because, you've got Mike Epps there sat second row on the grid. We've seen how well them Alphas launch. It's not going to be an easy turn 1, is it?
Not at all. I was pleased to see Max put a great lap in actually to get third and just put that one extra car between us. So, but yeah, no, I'll be running the race with traction control on. I'm going to be under a lot of pressure, I think, even to get down to turn 1 in first. So I feel I just need a good result and I need to be consistent. So I'm gonna run with it on, I believe, for the race.
Well, good luck, Robin, and honestly, it's great to see you actually, put that time on the board, and you've really shown what you can do as a driver, which is great to see. So, good luck for race 1, and yeah, see what race 2 brings, eh?
Thank you very much, Dave.
Cheers, Robin. Thanks for that. And there we go, Dan. So, Robin, I would say sounds quite confident there.
He does. He does indeed, doesn't he? I mean, I suppose as well, by the sounds of it, like I said, he knows Nurburgring like the back of his hand, which is always helpful, and that always gives you that sort of element of confidence, just going straight into something. You don't even need to really, you don't necessarily have to psych yourself up in a way, because we got an amazing shot there. That is car number 7, so I believe that is Andy Mellors, I believe, in that car. But yeah, what a shot that is. I just love the look of it.
How strange it's got like a mirrored left light, but the standard right light. I wonder what the idea in that is, but yeah, it's interesting to see that.
Yeah, it's just the most bonkers car I think I've ever seen. It just, like, nothing even comes close to it. It's just incredible. But yeah, I think Robbie Walters, he's quite. I wouldn't even say he's quietly confident. He's very confident, and it shows. You can tell he's relaxed. He's not worrying about it. He's not sort of like. Yeah, he's just at he's at a very calm mindset, which is really, really good, especially, like I said, when he's got to worry about Mike Epps in that Alpha.
The only worry I have is, he's saying he's running traction control on. This might be a case of, off the line, if that traction control cuts in too early, this might see him go backwards with Jack Mack going through, and that Alpha would definitely take advantage of that. So, yeah, I hope he's done a few practice launches with traction control and make sure that, he can still get the bite from the clutch and pull away, with the maximum power the car can produce. So we'll wait and see.
Well, indeed, as we've just been told as well, that in the right-hand corner of the screen, we've got Will Fairclough on board. So we are just about to get underway. What is a frosty afternoon here? We've got a spectator for Will as well, and we are away for round 3, race 1 of the VRRC League of Champions DTM Cup. And it seems to be a pretty good start. Look at Robin Walters. He has just disappeared and gone. He's already pulled up a bit of half a second. But, yeah, I know, Mike Epps didn't get as good a run as I thought he was going to get, if I'm perfectly honest. He's going door-to-door with Jack McIntyre, and I believe he is going to inherit second place. He's got the drive out of turn 1 there, remember. If you look at the drive there, he's already gapped about 2 or 3 car lengths, but this time it's Edmondson and McIntyre that are going to go side by side. And Jack has lost out, so he was at one point, I believe, in second, and he's now dropped down to P4. But I think this is where Mike Epps needs to push and pressure Walters as much as he can early on in this race to try and get ahead, potentially outside of Dunlop chicane. Dunlop hairpin, I keep saying. If he does get the drive, he's very, very close indeed. But the gap has opened up. It's 0.6 of a second already between Epps and Edmondson. Looks to be relatively close down the field as well. The bottom right corner of your screen. And that looks to be Sutton and Dorman that were going side by side into turn 6. But they have since backed out of that. So a bit of an alpha train down there. But look, I really like this frosty morning look. Frosty afternoon look. It looks really good. I'm liking this. I'm liking this weather change here, Dave.
Yeah, it's a nice bit of seasonal stuff, isn't it? But I mean, what a start! I mean, the whole grid ran probably one of the tightest corners on any track into turn 1, and we've got 13 runners there, all still running, all within what's that? Probably about 5 seconds of another. But yeah, great start by Robin. As you say, the Alpha probably didn't have the the oomph that I thought it was going to have, that would have essentially put him straight onto past Robin. But managed to get up the inside of Jack Mack. Max Edmondson was actually on the very outside going into turn 1, and fair play to him, was very brave, stuck it around the outside, and kept the grip on, and managed to get Jack Mack going into turn 2, which incredibly brave move. So fair play, Max Edmondson. But as we see, at the moment, Jack Mack must still be in 4th, yeah. So I didn't know whether Jack Mack had gone there, but no, Max Edmondson 3rd, Jordan Brennan 5th place. As we see Mick Sutton there with it move up the inside of Paul Laramie into the chicane. I bet he held his breath for that one, because that was a brave move.
It was indeed. We just see Andy Mellors that has dropped down for some reason. He's just dropped back. You just saw him out of shot before we switch cameras over to Jack McIntyre. He's going to go side by side again with Max Edmondson. So Jack, we actually saw on his on board as well. He did look quite frustrated, to be fair. So interesting, as we see that, that's not going to help his frustrations, definitely, because Max Edmondson has just pushed him out wide, ran him wide. He is allowed to do that. He was on the exit of the corner and he was ahead. But that's now put McIntyre into the clutches of Jordan Brennan. As again, we've got an amazing camera. Thank you very much, Mike, for that, because I love these camera angles here. And we've got a really, really good onboard shot of Brennan. So this is the battle for P3, and it's a three-way battle as well. Again, it's interesting. Look how much Brennan is currently working the wheel. We didn't see that with Robin Walters. He was very, very good. Again, Jack McIntyre, you can tell. You saw the frustration a little bit on his onboard camera. You can see the frustration in his driving more so than anything. He's trying to go around the outside of corners that are just generally not going to work. And he's almost potentially going to lose a position out to Brennan. Although the BM, this is where the power comes into it. Surprisingly, though, because it's BM versus BM. So not entirely sure. Brennan may have missed a gear potentially, or changed not at the optimum time there, Dave?
Yeah, I don't know whether that might have been a case of the aero with the car, actually. I mean, these cars are not massively aero biased. They don't have huge amounts of aero, providing all that downforce, but it does look like maybe Jack's car is running slightly less aero than Jordan's, maybe. But yeah, we're seeing, Max is doing a good solid job here. He's driving his lines, but you can almost see how much more planted the Mercedes is here around this track over the BMWs. That driving style that you were saying Robin Walters had, some of that is the car. The car is a lot more balanced than what the Beamers looks, but as you can see, Jack's all over the back of Max here, and Jordan Brennan's dropped all the way off on the straight, which is really surprising to see.
Yeah, I know, like you said, it just, as you say, it could be down to the aero. It could be down to the fact that, yeah, Dave is running slightly less aero of what he can run. But again, McIntyre tries to go around the outside. I think he actually outbraked himself there when he wasn't supposed to. So that has dropped him back potentially into the clutches of Brennan. He seems to be in a bit of a no man's land at the moment. But yeah, this is an interesting... We haven't seen... I don't think I've ever seen this from Jack McIntyre. This is probably the most frustrated I've seen him on track. So interesting to see how he develops as well. That's going to be a very, very late lunge, but he thinks twice of it. And he's just putting his car in a position where he is trying to upset Edmondson, and it seems to have worked. I think he actually upset Edmondson to the point where he had to hesitate there going into the braking zone and into turn 1. So then, whoa, that was a big moment. How he saved that. Fair play to him. And as well, going there, he is just driving the absolute wheels off of that car. Luckily that, I'm hoping tyres don't really have an effect. I don't think they do with these cars. They're quite hard tyre compounds. I'm hoping that they are. Otherwise, Jack's going to have a very, very interesting last 5 minutes of the race, because only 5 minutes has gone. And Jack is just, he's a man on a mission, but he can't quite make any positions in that mission, can he, Dave?
Yeah, if I'm honest, this is what I absolutely love to see. I mean, look at how hard he's driving that car. Sideways into corners, late on the brakes, getting a bit uneasy. It's excellent to see cars of this sort of era going super sideways, super aggressive. It's the way these cars should be driven, really.
It is indeed. I think Brennan actually outbraked himself ever so slightly going into the Dunlop hairpin. And he did. It looked like he tapped Jack a little bit going into. Didn't upset luckily, no harm, no foul. Both of those drivers are still going as they are, although Brennan did drop back a little bit. The gap, though, from Walters and Epps, 1.1 seconds. So the gap has just opened up massively. I think, again, Epps is just running his race. He doesn't really need to, at the moment anyway, do much, because he's in front of Jack McIntyre. So the man in second place is, he's ahead of. So he's pulling points on him. So I think that's what he's going to need to take away from, and that's what he's going to move forward with. As we've got an amazing, again, another onboard shot in the bottom right corner of your screen. That, I believe, is Isaac Smith, who's currently sitting behind Jordan Brennan. So we're going to see how these cars, again, just look at the A little bit, as I said, I was literally just about to say, look how smooth he is, and he went for a massive sideways moment there. So, commentator's curse. Luckily, it didn't really upset him too much. Yeah, so again, you can still see, even with the Mercedes, who probably is a bit more of a planted car, as we have seen, they're still trying to really drive the cars on. It looks to be, though, as well, I think Isaac Smith is closing the gap to Brennan. Not by much, though. I don't know if he's going to try and make the move. He doesn't. But yeah, I think potentially some aero is having an effect on this battle here. And it's amazing. I'm surprised at how much aero these guys are actually able to pick up and catch up to the other guys in front of them.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see if we can try and get an answer from John, as we have a huge moment there on the curb. Well held, John, but I tell you what, talking about a driver who literally drives the wheels off a car, he's not bothered, is he? He'll throw that sideways and keep his foot in it. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we haven't had much airtime from Robin Walters, really, because he's that far ahead. I mean, it's a stellar drive. Touch wood. I'm touching wood for me. You know, a stellar drive so far. 1.6 seconds ahead of Mike Epps, who's then pulled, you know, nearly 2 seconds on Max Edmondson. So, you know, Robin Walters is, you know, theoretically running away with this at the moment. You know, it's a great performance. But yeah, I think Max Edmondson and Jack Mackey are really just tripping over themselves. But I'm really surprised, as we see Jack Mack trying to get the undercut. Max Edmondson's going to have the legs on up the Schumacher S's here. Yeah, you can just see there, you know, Mercedes is actually really planted through here. So I would expect probably coming out, as we see Max getting a little bit sideways. Yeah, through them S's there, you know, the Mercedes can just carry that little bit more momentum. As you see him go really sideways there into, I believe that's turn 11. And actually, they've taken quite a lot of time here out of Mike Epps, and Mike Epps has lost a lot of time with Robin Walters.
He has indeed. I'm not entirely sure what's happened. Could have just been potentially a bad lap for Epps, but he has dropped, as you say, Dave, a fair bit of time. But still, the battle here, as we're going to get, Jack McIntyre is going to try and make a move around the outside going into the NGK chicane. That's never going to work in a million years, Jack, but he's going to try it anyway. And Max Emerson, quite rightly, as I'm sure he would have done anyway, shuts the door and does push. Whoa, look at Epps. He's going to go grass cutting the very icy part of the grass. That's not good. And I believe he has. Look at how much he's dropped off. That has just gone from bad to worse in the space of about 3 corners. And Mike Epps has dropped back down all the way to P6. So the thing that he didn't want to do, I think, to be fair, Jack, if you're going to try and make a move, now is the time to do it and try and pull away. But is that going to be the case? Outside into turn 1, a little bit more contact. As we see Max Emerson again, just driving his normal race and line. McIntyre still can't quite find a way. I've never seen Max drive this aggressively ever. But he's got to watch out because Brennan is now on the back of McIntyre. And I'm just looking actually that Epps is potentially going to be under pressure from Stapleford, so I'm not too sure why he dropped time. I doubt it was a mechanical issue or anything. Could be a hardware issue potentially as well that he's had to drop back there. But yeah, very uncharacteristic mistake from Mike Epps to make. But again, this battle for P2 now is just raging on, and it's going to be a 5-car battle, or a 6-car battle, I say, in the not too distant future if McIntyre and Emerson keep battling the way they are. Because I mean, at the way it's going, 6 cars don't really fit into one position at the moment. But are we going to see Jack McIntyre make a move? He's not, okay. I don't know about you, Dave, but already he looks a little bit less aggressive. I don't know about you, but is he now thinking, okay, Epps is now behind me, I may as well just sit behind?
No, Jack. I'm not so sure.
No,
I think every driver wants every position they can get. I think it's probably just a case of he was maybe realising if he tried to attack Max there too hard, Max was bringing the pace down a little bit, letting Jordan close into the back of him. So maybe Jax gave him that little bit more breathing room to try and get Max to push further ahead. And as you can see, it's lent him where Jordan's dropped off them back again. But as we see going down here, turn 13 up towards the chicane, Jack's on the preferred line here, and the Beamer's got a bit more grunt than the Mercedes. Yeah, there's not much Max can do there defensively, unless if you can get a lunge here, you're going into the last corner.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the move that Jack set up there was all the way down from when Max went a little bit wide in turn 11. He just dropped wide. We actually saw Max, and you see he just tried to just back the pace off a little bit at turn 12, almost not stopping on the apex because obviously you're going too fast, but he just backed the pace up a little bit. It didn't actually have the effect that he wanted to, and Jack obviously set himself up going through turn 14 and into 14, and as you say, the move was already done way before actually going through the last chicane. So that was very well read there from Jack. He reacted quickly. So yeah, this is what we're going to see from Jack now, is that level-headedness when he does need to be. Like I said, he has been driving, like I said, probably like I said, more aggressively than I've ever seen him drive before. But when it actually came to it, level-headed, kept calm, timed it really well, and then off he goes. He's already pulled, what's that, nigh on a second off of Max Edmonds, so he knows he's got the pace. Is he going to catch up to Robin Walters? I doubt it. There's only 8 minutes and 20 seconds left. However, touch wood, anything can happen. We've seen that before, Dave. Anything can happen. Absolutely anything. The gap is 5 seconds. So realistically, you've got to pull a second a lap. As much as Jack is very, very quick, I don't think with the display that we've seen from Walters at the moment, out an outright pace, I don't think we'll be able to catch him.
Yeah, I mean, if Robin Walters is watching that time gap, it'd be interesting to see if we look at the lap times, as we see Jordan Brennan just get up the inside there of Max Edmondson. I was just wondering whether Max Edmondson maybe pushed his rear tyres a little bit too hard. We saw him go very quick into a couple of corners and lose the back end. So yeah, I wonder whether maybe we've just seen him, cook his rear tyres, and then you can't really defend the way you want to because the car won't allow you to take certain lines that maybe would be the better ways. We see Isaac Smith there also putting up the inside of Max Edmondson. That's going to put him around the outside here, going into turn 12 onto the back straight. Max Edmondson's managed to get back ahead, and that's going to put Isaac Smith under pressure now from Mike Epps and Robbie Stapleford, to be fair.
I know, this is again a battle. This is a four-way battle. This is for P4 now, as we've got Mike Epps having a little bit of a look. He doesn't quite make the move stick. And again, the train leads through turns 14 and 15 for another time. I think the Alpha does not look happy. If you get it wrong through that chicane, it is not happy at all. It's definitely, I think, the heavy weight is sort of taking its toll on the suspension quite a fair bit. But you've now got an on board with Robbie Stapleford sitting behind and looking at the humongous 4 exhaust pipes of the Alpha. I don't know, does it look like he's... I was about to say, does it look like he's backing off? But I don't think he was. Whether he was trying to lift out of the throttle, not entirely sure. If he is... Whoa, that was a very, very brave move there from Isaac Smith. I think that was Max Edmondson going wide. And I think, really, Isaac Smith was just like, well, I may as well try and make the move stick. And at the moment, he hasn't quite done it yet. As I say that, whoa, no. That was contact there again. Edmondson, I think, just went a little bit sideways. Obviously, oh, no, that steps off. I wonder, I thought I saw that out of shot. Did Max Edmondson go sideways again? Look at these, he's just sideways all the time. All through that Mercedes arena, I don't think he was in a straight line for any part of it. But the person who's lost out, again, is Mike Epps.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to actually read what was going on there. But, yeah, I mean, Isaac Smith was a bit of a sitting duck there, wasn't he? He got a little bit sideways. There's not really much you can do. And Mike Epps had already committed to the inside line. And by the time he tried to shrug and he sort of speed off, Isaac was there. The best case scenario happened really, hit Isaac relatively straight. He managed to keep going, but as you say, the drama after looked to be Max Edmondson getting sideways and then, losing it into the side of Mike Epps and then Mike Epps spinning off. So, Mike here, needs to play smart. You've got Will Fairclough in front of him, 1.3 up the road. Realistically, in front of that, he's not going to make any sort of leeway into the front pack. But you've got to remember, reverse grid next race, this is going to play right into Mike Epps' hands because it's going to be the job of, Jack Mack and Jordan Brennan here to try and get back through the grid.
I know, yeah, it's such a shame that, because that's Epps 2 out of 2 that he's not had the best of races at the moment, as we see Max Edmondson trying to make up his own track at the moment. I wonder if he's got some steering damage because, he seems a little bit out of sorts at the moment. He's maybe trying to gain composure, as we've got again Mick Sutton currently on board and on your screen, very sideways going through the Schumacher S's. Does keep it all in check though, again, using the 4-wheel drive capabilities of the Alpha and just basically wrestling with the car and straightening up with just probably a boot full of power again, which always solves everything, doesn't it, Dave, to be fair?
Oh, it does. Yeah.
But we've got as well now currently Isaac Smith, who has inherited 5th position after all of that kerfuffle at the start of this lap. A bit of a no man's land though, so he's 9/10 behind Stapleford and he's about 2nd in front of Edmondson. So he is sort of running probably with no other issues at the moment. He's going to be running his own race to the end, I would have imagined. They all look pretty even on pace, actually, looking at the looking at the times. As we've got now, this is Andy Carroll with, again, your onboard in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. You can see there again as well. We actually just saw it, which is a really, really cool. I quite like seeing that. You almost saw, again, as we were saying, Dave, on the brakes, the car wants to step out, even something like the Alpha. You got the four-wheel drive system, but going through the brakes, he was putting a little bit of opposite lock on just to stabilise the car and to keep it basically, trying to keep it as much as he can in a straight line. So that was really quite good to see. I'm intrigued that the Alpha is doing that. I wonder if it's doing it as much as the BMW and the Mercedes. I can't imagine it is, personally.
Yeah, for sure. It's lovely to see. I mean, it's sort of the aspect of the cars, especially in the real world, that, you know, onlookers and spectators overlook, really. You know, if you put a car into slow-mo going down into a corner, you don't realise how much the car is moved around, and, you know, it's not as easy as just sort of putting your foot on the brake and getting the car rotated. You know, it's all about getting the balance of the car, getting the weight loaded up on them outside wheels. There's lovely footage there of Will Fairclough. It's really nice to see that, to be fair. You know, it's obviously a bit of a family thing, you know, bringing in his daughter to sit next to him while he's racing. You know, that's nice to see. So, yeah, this is probably Will Fairclough's strongest race going on here. So 7th place, Will Fairclough, as Mike Epps got very close there to the back of Will Fairclough, trying to crawl any sort of points back from this race. But, yeah, Will Fairclough, 7th place, you know, fair play to him. This is a good solid result for Will Fairclough, and it's going to put him in good stead for the following race.
It is indeed, absolutely. We've also seen him as well. We've seen him improve race by race, which is also, like you said, really good to see. I'm sure, to be fair, Will Fairclough, he probably hasn't stopped breathing. He's still holding his breath after he saw the alpha of Mike Epps get very, very large in his rearview mirror. But all seems to be well with the world now. Yeah, that was, well, I mean, look at the damage on Epps' car. I think he's trying to nurse his car as much as he can, but there's only 2 minutes left, so I imagine there's one more lap after this. Will Fairclough hold off Mike Epps for another couple of laps? So the spin of flames out there. He's going to go on the defensive move. Is Mike Epps going to get a cutback? He tries to, but we got Will there, just parks it on the apex pretty much. It doesn't stop the car, but in a sense of really sort of scrubs that speed off on the apex, and Mike Epps can't get the cut. But this is great racing. It is, again, really defensive driving now from Will, and Epps are going to try and go on the outside of turn 3 into turn 4. He is going to have the inside. Is he going to make the move stick? He can't quite do it. This is great stuff from Will. He is holding his own absolutely amazingly here. This is great racing to see.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you look at the things that Mike Epps has done in real life, you know, the BTCC, you know, endless GT stuff and single-seater, but that's not a take away from Will. You know, Will's a very accomplished driver himself, competing in the Cooper S. You know, I believe he's won several races in the Cooper S. I can't remember whether he won a championship. He'll probably tell us off later for that, but he might have done. But yeah, you know, you don't win or, you know, do very well in a Cooper S championship without having the skill of being a very good defensive driver, and we're seeing that here now. You know, this is a case of a driver that's driving very much within himself and keeping Mike Epps behind him.
Indeed. Well, we've just seen the cameras switch, so we've got the battle between Epps and Fairclough in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. But the moment here, Brennan and Stapleford are currently going door-to-door, BMW versus BMW. Here, going through that, well, whoa, that was very, very close. I think they were both one car for a brief moment there, going down the back straight into the bottom chicane, turns 14 and 15. How are they going to fare through turn 16? That looks to be Brennan getting a little bit wide over the grass. That's one thing you don't want to do, especially if it's in the condition that it is. But at the moment now, Mike Epps is in, trying to go around the outside through turn 14 to the last chicane. Can he do it? I think, looking at the timing zone, he hasn't done it again. So Will, like you said, displaying very, very good defensive driving here, and he still can't quite get by. We haven't got the white flag, so we have one more lap after this. So Epps has got another 2 laps to try and get that position from Will, and obviously roll reversal for Will, of course. And we have Stapleford has another 2 laps to try and get the move done on Brennan for that all-important final spot. I'm actually intrigued, though, to see McIntyre has dropped. So Jack has actually dropped the time a little bit down. It was about 5.8 seconds. It's now 4.7. Potentially, are we seeing Walters that's just cruising along? He doesn't really need to do much at this point, does he? To be perfectly honest. But are we seeing him just sort of casually just cruising on, or are we seeing now Jack's sort of pace now starting to show through? Now he's got a bit of clean track.
No, I think that's probably a case of Robbins. You know, he's got the gap. He knows there's going to be only 1, possibly 2 laps remaining after this. You know, be quite happy to just bring it back and keep it smooth. As we've definitely seen, you know, Mike's not exactly finding it easy to get past Will Fairclough here. He's gone straight on. Hopefully Will can get back on the track and get all that sorted. But, you know, that's one of their moves where the move was committed. I mean, look at the back of the state of Mike Epps' car there. There's not a straight panel on it, is there? But yeah, I mean, the battle between Jordan Brennan and Robbie Stapleford further forward, that battle's more significant than you would actually think. You know, at the moment, Jordan Brennan's sitting 3rd in the overall championship, only 3 points behind Jack McIntyre. So, you know, Jordan really wants to hang on to this position and keep that gap nice and close for the following races, because otherwise Robbie gets through here, that gives Jack just that little bit of breathing room, and then I'll try and work out the maths at the end of this race of what that's going to do to Mike Epps's championship standings here, because Mike Epps is currently leading the championship by 7 points.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's going to get very, very close indeed if the positions stay where they are. So we're just about to come up, as you can see, into the top of your screen. Whoa, that was a bit of a shunt there, and that is, unfortunately, Stapleford has spun. Whether he wasn't expecting... Oh, that was very, very close indeed there, Stapleford, but I actually don't know. I don't really know what happened there. Was he not expecting Brennan to break that early? I'm not entirely... He was very, very close, and yeah, it looked to be either he just misjudged his braking zone, or Brennan brakes a little bit early, or potentially a little bit of both. I'm not entirely sure. So we may hear a little bit from Brennan if he does stay where he is. I mean, the gap is 7 seconds, so I can't see anything happening now. But the main man currently now in the bottom right corner of your screen, Robin Walters, starting his final lap. This is Alpha versus Alpha versus Alpha versus Alpha. Trying to say that more times than I care to mention. And that is why Kep's taking P7. We actually saw Andy Mellors trying to get that position back. He didn't quite manage it, so Epps has inherited again P7, and that's very wide there. He manages to hold it though, so fair play to Andy. He's driving the absolute wheels off of his Alpha, and to be fair, all of them are, and that is, oh no, that's Will Fairclough that's trying to spin again. Such a shame. I'm guessing he's trying to nurse some damage that he received from the accident that he had with Epps. So his race, unfortunately, again, has just gone from bad to worse, but Epps has inherited P7, Mellors in P8, and Dorman in P9. But yeah, that's such a shame for me.
Yeah, I think that's probably a case of, extreme damage now to the rear end or the side of his car. But also, once you get a big slide on these cars and get too much temp into them tyres, around this track, they don't really get a chance to let off and cool themselves down. So it's probably a case of them rear wheels on Will's car are really overworked now. He's probably not going to get the temps down, and he's just lost the back end. Fair play from keeping his foot in to keep the momentum to just spin the car around. It's unfortunately not the result he was looking for. It's 11th place. He had the pace there definitely to finish 7th place. So reverse grid here. He'll be starting, I believe, 2nd on the grid. This is going to be a one to watch. Will potentially, I hope this is not a commentator's curse, this could be potentially his first win lined up for race 2.
It is indeed. Let's hope so. But Robin Walters does take the win for race 1. We've got Jack McIntyre takes P2, which I'm sure he'll be very pleased with that. And Jordan Brennan rounds out your top 3 for race 1 of the DTM Cup with the League of Champions. And Robbie Stapleford with a car that looks very sorry for itself at this point. The left-hand side looks fine. Right hand, not so much. So, yeah, that's a car that has seen better days. Can do some bodywork redoing, absolutely. And we have that as Edmondson P5, Stapleford P6, and Epps P7. So he's tried to damage limitation as much as he can. We've then got Mellors in 8th, Dorman in 9th, and Carroll in 10th. And Will Fairclough, who, yes, I believe you are correct, Dave, he will inherit P2. And he will take P2 for the reverse grid. And we do have here, that is Mick Sutton that's just about to cross the line. But this is Paul Larrabee in P13. So we are going to see him. He's got turns 14, 15, and 16 to negotiate for the final time. And it looks like a cracked windscreen, so I'm not entirely sure what's happened there, whether it was a previous accident from him or something or other. But that windscreen is going to be replacing for race 2.
Yeah, it's seen better days, that, hasn't it? I definitely like that's an MOT pass on that car. But yeah, he's brought it home. Fair play to him. It's going to be difficult. 13th on the grid. Coming through the grid with essentially the fastest driver starting right in front of him. So it's not exactly going to be an easy task for Paul Larrabee there going into the second race. But yeah, I think the drivers definitely watch for race 2 is we'll have a look for Will Fairclough. Hopefully he can get a clean start, drive within himself, open up that gap. Because, the likes of, Jack Mack, Robin Walters, Jordan Brennan, the people who's had some serious pace this race are going to be all the way back on the grid. So, yeah, we'll wait and see, but I'm definitely looking forward to this race too.
So am I. Well, I believe we do have some drivers in the interview waiting room for us. So, Dave, if you want to have a chat with them, I'm intrigued to see their thoughts on race 1.
No bother. Right, and if we go down to the interview room, I believe we'll have 3rd place Jordan Brennan sat there. Are you there, Jordan?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, it was an interesting race, that. The biggest question for me is, you seemed extremely slow down the straights.
Yeah, I noticed that with Jack's car anyway, so I'm going to see what I can do, unless my brake's riding.
Yeah, I mean, it was noticeable. I mean, the cars, you know, even with I would have thought with aero changes shouldn't be, you know, dramatically different down the straights, but there was a noticeable difference between particularly you and the other BMWs on track that you seemed a bit slow down the straight. So impressive third result there, to be fair, with a car that was driving the way it was. What's the expectations going into race 2? You know, it's going to be difficult from, you know, near the back of the grid, but you do have Robin Walters and Jack also trying to get through behind you.
Yeah, I'm going to have a quick look at my brake, see if that is a problem. If not, I might try a different gear setting for this race and see if I can hopefully improve on what I've just done here. But yeah, hopefully I can get through the pack.
Oh, well, I'll let you crack on, Jordan, if you've got some tech issues. So I'll let you crack on and see if you can get them sorted for race 2. Good luck.
Cheers, thanks.
And on to our P2 man, Jack. That wasn't easy, was it?
No. Max made that really difficult. Credit to him. That was a good fight, and it made me very annoyed trying to get past. So that's always a sign that someone's defending really well. But no, that's good. I'll take second there. I think if I'd have got past Max a little bit earlier, I might have been able to close the gap on Robin a little bit sooner. But he was gone. So yeah, still happy with second.
Yeah, Robin does seem to have a bit of pace here. I mean, you know, you're driving the Beamer. I take it you're probably seeing that the Merc around this track does look quite a bit more stable, especially through the chicane. Yeah,
it looks like a good car. I've spent a lot of time, well, not really in the DTMs, but in the minis, especially working with setup in a setup Corsa, and I think I've found a little bit of time in the BMW through that. So it was, you know, I think my car felt quite stable as well. So I was confident I could put up a good chase, but I could just about feel the tyres going at the end as well. So even if I'd got past Max, maybe I wouldn't have been right on Robin. But nah, it's a good race.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good solid effort, and it's nice to see you finishing in second place, and also nice to see some good battling. If I'm honest, it was a fair spectacle to see you getting a fair bit of opposite lock and just keeping your foot in. It makes it interesting to watch for us. So well done for race 1, and good luck going into race 2, because that isn't going to be easy with the way the grid is in turn 1. So good luck.
Cheers, Matthew.
No, but and on to our race 1 winner, Robin Walters.
Well, hey, how about that?
That's all right, isn't it? You'll take that. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it went about as well as it could have done, wasn't it? It was a clean start. You pulled away, they tripped over them behind you, and you were gone.
Exactly. I don't think that could have gone any better, really. I had practiced my starts a little bit, so I got it about as good as I could. I was still sort of aware of Mike being there, and I just sort of covered the inside a bit too early, but I realised I actually had a bit of a gap into the first corner. So, yeah, that couldn't have gone any better, really.
Yeah, we did notice you get actually quite a good launch, because we were commenting on the fact, you know, we expected Mike to probably get more alongside you than what he did, but he seemed to manage to, you know, pip Jack and I believe it was Max Edmondson. But, you know, you were quite clear you go down to turn 1. I mean, dare I say, what's your expectations in race 2? I mean, you're starting, you know, one position from the back with a grid in front of you that is, you know, rather stacked and an extremely tight turn 1. So is it just, you know, keep your nose clean and let you pace throughout the race, bring you back through the grid, or, you know, are you going to go for it?
Honestly, anything is a bonus from here. I feel like job done already for me. I've got that race win, that first race win was so key. And I don't know when it'll next come around. I don't know how often we're at this track. Yeah, to be fair, genuinely, I mean, I've got nothing to lose in a sense. I'm just going to sort of go for it, see what happens, but try and keep clean as well. Seem to get involved in a lot of incidents. So, yeah, I'm just going to try and keep clean. And I was quite surprised by how quick the tyres went off in that first race. I've not done any full long runs, and they dropped off sort of halfway through the race for me, and I was really struggling.
That's interesting to hear. I mean, we have reports that other drivers are struggling as well, but I'll let you get your head down anyway. I think the race is not too long starting, so good luck for race 2, and what a race 1 for you.
Thanks, Dave.
Cheers. Yeah, again, Dan. Robin sounds fair confident, doesn't he?
He does indeed. You could just tell it in his voice. I mean, he's happy, like I said, he's got the race 1 win. To be fair, he's going into this race with no pressure. He doesn't have any pressure on him. He's just going through it. He's just going to enjoy it, and off he goes. But we're going to see how this works out in a few moments' time as we get underway for race 2 here. The lights are on and they are about to go off now, and we are racing. Look at the drive again of the Alphas. They have just disappeared and pulled away from everyone else. Normally with the reverse grids, though, we do have a lot of Alphas at the front for these reverse, but Will Fairclough is going to have a look going into turn 2. Is he going to try and make the move stick? He's already side by side. No, that's a bit of contact, but they seem to have been... Oh, no. It's going from bad to worse for these guys. Oh, wow on earth. What has happened there? I do not know. All I know is that is going to guarantee... Well, I would put money on that being a safety car. I'm not entirely sure, but that was not good because we've got Brennan there that's in P10. We've got Carroll that's dropped down. McIntyre's in 8th. That's just mixed the grid up. Morse, and we have, yes, there we go. Safety car deployed. I thought that was going to be the case. So Will Fairclough, again, probably not the way that he wanted to inherit P1 and to overtake into P1, but he is there nevertheless. That was an interesting start, I think, to say the least there, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably a case of, Mick Sutton slowed the car down, started to get the rotation, and I think it was probably the lightest of taps from Will that just kept Sutton's car going round there. Probably a racing incident. You'll probably have to look at it again, but, Will's probably, got a bit of a bee in his bonnet from race 1, thinking, I was hit myself, I went off track, so, he's going to have the fire in his belly to really just try and bring this one home. And then I couldn't tell you what the world happened on there behind. It seemed like Brennan had really fixed his straight line performance, because the way he pulled past their Mercedes off the line, he was gone. Put straight the inside of Isaac and Max Edmondson there. And drove all the way down to turn 1, and then all of a sudden, someone from behind, lack of braking or misjudged the point, just seemed to push everyone on into turn 1. So. Luckily it doesn't look like damage is too bad, but yeah, Max Edmondson has managed to come from wherever he was on the grid to now 4th ahead of Mike Epps. I mean, how has he done that?
Well, I mean, to be fair, looking at that start, a bit of luck, I think, was definitely in there. But we're gonna just be told, I think it's actually going to be restarted by Mick Sutton. So is he going to inherit back into? I think he may actually pull over. Actually, sorry, we're just being told as well that Will Fairclough is starting, and he is. He's already gone. He's already gone. That's exactly as you said it. He's already pulled, 7-8 tenths of a second. As we've got that is Mick Sutton going very, very wide into the last corner. But he's got a gap of about 4 tenths. But look at the start that Will has he timed that absolutely perfectly. And I mean, look at the train behind him. He's probably sitting there looking at his rearview mirror going, thank you, chaps. I'm just going to crack on, and I'll let you sort out all of the positions behind me. But Max Edmondson is going to try and go around the outside. That was P3, P4. You just see on your timing screens. Back to P3, although he does go a little bit too wide going through turn 1. And again, the drive of the Alpha cannot be matched in these cars. Look at Mike Epps. He's now up into P5, potentially going to be in P4 very, very soon if he tries to make a move on Edmondson, but I imagine he's going to be quite cautious as well. He doesn't want to repeat of race 1, I think, as well. I mean, this is concertinaing up very, very quickly. And all of this time, Will Fairclough, is pulled out 1.7 seconds now. I actually said that in the space it took me to say it, he pulled out another 2 tenths.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give a commentator's curse because I've said this many times before and Will's been leading, but yes, he's 1.7 seconds ahead. It's looking good. We're seeing Max Edmondson there.
No.
Just get slowed down. I believe that was by Andy Dorman. Lost the back end, and I believe Andy Dorman has gone as well off to the left-hand side of the track, which has played perfectly to your hands here for Mike Epps. As we see Jack Mack trying to go around the outside of Isaac. I would have thought that's probably not going to work. Isaac's just gave him enough room there coming up to the Schumacher S's. But I've just looked at the championship standings, and currently Jack Mack is leading this championship by 1 point to Mike Epps. So, this is all to play for here. Mike Epps, 2 positions in front of Jack Mack, but Robin Walters is looking incredibly racy here behind Jack McIntyre.
He is indeed. That was Mick Sutton that's gone wide. He's dropped down a few positions. That was into P11. He's going to compromise Jack McIntyre going through turn 12, but he doesn't compromise him too much. He lost a little bit of time there, but not enough, I think, to really make that much of a difference. Look at the gap now between Epps and Mellis. It's under a tenth of a second. So 2 cars become 1 at this point. If you're less within a tenth of a second of both of these cars, they're going to try and go side by side going through the last chicane, turns 14 and 15. And I think they've just managed to do it, although Epps doesn't. Wow, that was very, very sideways. And we've got that Smith going to try and look up the inside of the last corner. Look at that aerial shot there. It's just 2 by 2. as they go into literally 2x2, so you've got McIntyre and Epps. These are championship positions. This is very, very crucial for both Epps and McIntyre. Neither of these guys are going to want to back out of this position, but it's who's going to come ahead of turn 1. Look at the drive, I think, as well. This is where the Alpha starts to lose out. There's a little bit of contact there from Mellors on Smith.
Watch out for Mixon.
No. Oh, no. That was just... Oh, that was never going to... Are we going to see another safety... Oh, look at that. Are we going to see another safety car, do you reckon, Dave? Because that might be another safety car.
I mean, I've never seen a safety car call this late onto a race. I'm not sure that's going to be probably down to the race director, but that was a case of, I don't know whether Mick Sutton didn't find his brake pedal or just completely missed his braking point. You know, he was going straight on there, wasn't he?
Well, I mean, yeah, again, could be hardware failure. It could very well be hardware failure, that as well. We've seen that a couple of times. I know I've been there. It's never nice. You know, you go over and find... I can't imagine what it's like in a real car. I've only had brake failure once in a car, and that was scary enough, let alone doing, you know, twice the sort of speed. And, yeah, that was... I think, as you see in the bottom right corner of your screen there, we just had Mick Sutton, who unfortunately had parked up. I wonder if hardware failure has got to him a little bit there, which is a bit of a shame. It's obviously not what we want to do. But yeah, I've been in that position. It's never nice. And I'm sure we're going to be finding out some more information after the race has finished. But no safety car as of yet. So the gaps have opened up quite a lot, shall we say. So we've got Epps is 3.3 seconds off Will Fairclough, who is still currently in the lead. Is that gap going to come down? It seems to have come down a little bit already, but 13 minutes left of the race. Oh, we just had there. I don't know whether that was the case or not. No, we've just been told that is not the case. Whoa, that was very, very... Look at that sideways. A bit of Tokyo drift there from Andy Mellors. Can't quite actually make the drift stick. And he unfortunately drops down. That's dropping down all the way into P10. That's not what he wanted. He was doing really well there. I believe he was P6 before that incident, but I'm hoping he has got going again. He hasn't quite managed to get going yet, but I'm sure he will do in a few moments' time. With bottom right-hand corner of your screen, Mr. Andy Carroll there, doing very, very well in P5. A very respectable race for him so far, although with a car that has seen better days, as has Stapleford's car.
Yeah, I don't think there's many cars on the grid that hasn't seen better days, if I'm honest with you. I think it'll be interesting to try and find a car that hasn't had a mark on it. As we've seen Mike Epps there putting the fastest lap of the race, you know, he's definitely closing the gap here on Will Fairclough. You know, the gap's down now to 2.3 seconds. You know, what's that? He took off 0.7 of a second there in one lap. So, yeah, the pressure's definitely going to be on here for Will. You know, I don't know how hard he's going to try and defend this. You know, he's going to want just a really good result at the end of the day. Everyone wants a win, but if it's not realistic or the driver behind is closing you by that much each lap, you know, you've got to be realistic in yourself. And, you know, I think Will be happy here with just a really good, solid result. But yeah, I mean, fair play to Mick Sutton. He's parked it up. Obviously, that's not the race he wanted. But I noticed Robin Walters as well at the start of that race had dropped all the way down the grid for whatever reason. And he's managed to get himself back up to 7th place there. So this is good to see Robin pull himself back up through the grid.
It is indeed. I mean, looking at Walter's car, it doesn't look actually that damaged, if anything at all, to be fair. We just saw as well, though, Carroll had a bit of a moment there where Emerson, I think, pushed him just a little bit too wide for my liking, as it would have been. Or Walters tried to make the move stick, but outbraked himself massively there. Oh, a little bit of contact, and that's pushed Walters off. He does keep it going. Hopefully not into the clutches of Isaac Smith, who is now only half a second behind. But that was a brief moment where Walters was in P6, and he's now dropped that down into P7. But he is indeed. Look at the gap now between Isaac Smith and Robin Walters. The gap has come right down indeed. Oh, he's going to go. Isaac Smith's looking for the move. Actually put... wow, that was really, really aggressive driving there from Isaac Smith. Really, really good to watch. Just gave him... I'm not too sure why he did that, because he's actually dropped a bit of position. And again, with another MOT failure of the windscreen. So that's definitely going to fail there. Yeah, he's dropped back. I'm not too sure why he tried to make the move, because it didn't look like he was actually close enough to make the move stick. And he's dropped back quite a bit as a result of it. Although Walters is going to try and pass Carroll again at some point, I'm sure. And that's then going to back that position up. A little bit hesitant going through the chicane, as you can see. Probably, again, trying to make sure he doesn't get too much damage. Oh, that's Walters up the inside of Carroll. That is going to be a move that is going to stick as long as Carroll doesn't get the drive, which I think he was just a little bit too much lock on to actually really utilise the straight line speed. And we were talking about as well, Dave, that V shape in the corner. He couldn't do it there. So that's where the Alpha really comes on strong. But he couldn't quite do it because Walters had just put his car in a position where it wouldn't allow him to. So that is Walters up into P6, Carroll in P7. But Isaac Smith now is being separated, obviously, with the Alpha. Ooh, a little bit sideways there from Carroll, but he manages to hold it. And now Isaac Smith, green on green here, Alpha versus Mercedes. Whoa, another big sideways moment. how these guys are keeping it, and he's actually lost a position. So Brennan has now moved up into P8 after his incident we had at turn 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very sideways, this race, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see. You know, Robin Walters has obviously got some serious pace around this track. You know, he said he was feeling comfortable in the car. It was a comfortable track for him. And at the end of the day, you know, he's got himself up into 6th position now. How many more positions can he get before the end of the race? There's still just under 10 minutes to go. As we see here, Jack Mark putting a bit of pressure onto Mike Epps. Now, what really needs to happen here, you know, for this to work out best for Will needs to try and almost back Mike a little bit up into the back of Jack Mark, get them to really battle. Hopefully something might happen between them that'll give Will a bit more of a gap and allow him to just keep a hold of that lead, because at the moment, if Jack lets Mike Epps go, you know, Mike Epps is going to probably get Will, Jack will pick him off, and then, you know, we're looking at probably Will being 3rd. So yeah, Will needs to use a bit of that defensive driving that he had in race 1, you know, really try and hold Mike up, and that's going to force Jack to be really aggressive with Mike.
Well, it has indeed. I mean, to be fair, as you were saying, this is going to put, now at the moment, this is going to put Will Fairclough's defensive driving to the test. They're going to go side by side, Epps and Fairclough going into the chicane, and I think it is going to be, yes, that is. So that is Epps that has got through. Will tried to defend as much as he could, but couldn't quite get the move started. And then Jack McIntyre, he was always going to have to make that move, wasn't he? Always in a million years that move was going to be made for Jack Mack. He knew he had to get past Fairclough as much as and as quickly as he could, because he doesn't want to drop any time off of Epps. I mean, these guys are both looking very, very close indeed in terms of pace. So any potential loss of time could be the difference between a win and a P2 currently in this scenario. And especially as well, there's no love lost between these two because they are fighting for championship position. But I think at the moment, Jack McIntyre has got the edge on in terms of pace. And I think as well, looking at the way that the car is responding, I don't know, I think at this stage of the race anyway, BMW seems to be a little bit more planted and a little bit more sorted than the Alpha.
Yeah, it's actually quite surprising to see that. You know, I think the Beamer seems to be moving around a little bit more skatey, but the Alpha definitely seems a little bit unsettled in the bumps, and if it does lose the back end, you know, it's got quite a lot of rotation there. But yeah, Jack's definitely looking like he's maybe got the measure on pace here, but you know, Mike Epps is going to be no easy person to try and get past. But the key is, this is, you know, championship position. Jack Mark 1 point ahead at the moment in front of Mike Epps. You know, this is going to depend on who has maximum ballast going into Spa and who doesn't. And does actually going into Spa, does Mike Epps want that extra weight going into Spa? You know, this is where, you know, it might also almost come down to tactics for regarding ballast and having straights that are extremely long. But we'll wait and see. I'd imagine these drivers are just going to race outright for position, if I'm honest with you.
Well, I'm sure to with the racing that we've seen in these rounds and these races, yeah, I can imagine that's what they're going to do. Absolutely. The battle still is between, as you see on the main screen at the moment, Brennan and Smith, and also we've got Andy Carroll in the mix there as well. So potentially, you know, if he sticks with these guys, if they start battling, he's going to be involved in the current battle with P7 as well. Although Brennan seems to have the legs on Smith at this moment in time. Actually, look as well at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. The gap has opened up a little bit from McIntyre and Epps. Again, I don't know how it was. So that the gap's actually closed up just a little bit back there as well. So they're almost yo-yoing between the gap being sort of like half a second and 0.2 of a second. And I don't know whether it actually, I'd be interested to see if we sit on board with Jack for a little bit. Because it seemed that obviously Epps has pulled away in the second half of the lap. I wonder if he catches up in the first half. Because the BMW is a little bit more nimble, seems to be a little bit better on the brakes, as you can see there. I wonder, and I'm thinking, Dave, you might agree with me on this, the BMW is a little bit quicker through the first half, but then loses out in the second. Yeah,
and that's definitely the case. And you've got to remember, this track, I'll probably say, lends itself better to the overtake happening in the second part of the track. So, you know, this is not an easy task for Jack to try and find a way past Mike here, because you'll see on here, Jack's struggling a little bit there for traction, and Mike pulls, you know, half a car length on Jack again. So it's going to be really hard for Jack to calculate when to do this overtake if he's got the overlap speed, and if he can then make it stick, because that Alpha is super strong on acceleration, as we'll see out of here.
Yeah, it was indeed. I mean, to be fair, he pulls a little bit. It's almost at least half a car length everywhere, like regardless, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's amazing how much that could actually, and it's amazing how much that does actually help. Robin Walters, again, though, running his own race currently in P6. He's done a very, very good recovery drive. I imagine this what he was saying, he was saying before we interviewed, when you were interviewing him, Dave, that anything is a bonus, and I'm sure he'll be happy with P6, potentially P5, because he's only 3/10 behind Max Emerson at the moment. So another potential position in the cards here for Robin Walters. If he can get a top 5, I'm sure he will be absolutely ecstatic with that. A P, if he currently says he's got a win and potentially a top 5 on the card. So he is enjoying this race. I'm sure he's lapping it up as much as he can. As I say that position, actually, commentator's curse. Whoops, that was my bad. Sorry there, Max. Didn't mean to give that to you there. But that has opened the door for a little. That was very, very close indeed. Doesn't quite make the move stick though. But this is the battle at the moment for P1. Jack McIntyre is going to try and go around the outside of Mike Epps. I don't think Epps is going to let him have it. He doesn't indeed. Oh, they both got very sideways and they both go off. Jack manages to keep it just about in a straight line. And that has moved. And again, the gap has opened up now to half a second. So almost a carbon copy of what Epps did in race 1. Yeah, that has not boded well for him. He tried to make the move. And again, he does make the move. So he was always going to try and make that move. Again, Epps knows Epps is confident enough. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to drive his car. And again, he was always going to run him, I think, a little bit wide. He almost looked like he turned in probably a little bit too late, or just a fraction later as well, going into. It looked like from that camera angle anyway. It may not have been, but it just looked like that at the moment. Look at Will Fairclough there. He is still doing an incredible drive in P3, although Stapleford is half a second behind him. So, with 3 minutes and 42 seconds to go, this race is going to get very close indeed, I think.
Yeah, I think that's definitely not an understatement there. Robbie is all over the battle, Will Fairclough here. We'll wait and see what happens. I mean, look at the state of Robbie's car at the moment. He's definitely driving with everything he's got, if you like. As Robin Walters is going to try and go around the outside of Max Edmondson here into turn 8, and he's got the job done. Look at that. Round the outside, up to the inside line, going into the hairpin, and Max Edmondson, job done. Robin Walters, P5, is he going to get on the back of Robbie and Will Fairclough at this rate?
Well, I don't know. To be fair, it depends how much these guys hold each other up, because that could potentially, is something that I was going to say as well, Dave. You hit the nail on the head. That could be something that very well happens, because
P3 on the cards, maybe.
Potentially, exactly. Yeah, Robert Walters, a double podium, one being a win. I'm sure he's going to be ecstatic with that. But Will Fairclough is going to try and do the defensive move. He doesn't quite do it.
Yeah.
He doesn't react it quickly enough, I don't think. And that is, yes, Stapleford is up into P3. Is Will Fairclough going to make the move stick? He's got to try and get the drive now coming out of the bottom hairpin. We have seen potentially that the Alpha is a little bit stronger through this last section, although at the moment that is not the case for Epps versus McIntyre, because the BM is looking very strong pretty much through the entire lap. Again, tries to go on the outside, so Epps is just putting his car in a position where he's sort of saying to Jack, well, off you go. You can give it a go if you want, but there is no way I'm going to let you by. Going through there, whoa, that was a bit sideways for Jack McIntyre, but he managed to keep it. There was a bit of contact there as well between Epps and McIntyre there, but they all managed to keep it all straight and true. And we've just seen as well, look on your screen now, so Will Fairclough has got back past Robbie Stapleford, and now this has opened the gap up to Robin Walters that's going to come in. So, Dave, I think potentially P3 on the cards for Robin Walters here.
Look at Robin Walters come through the grid 2 seconds faster than what Will Fairclough and Robbie's time was. I mean, actually, has he done it there? He's done it. Robbie got a little bit greedy on the throttle there, lost the back end. Robin Walters up into P4. He's got to be thinking of podiums on the cards here. He needs to keep this. Make sure his tyres are not overworked here. Keep drive within himself. But he is going to be all over the battle, Will, within a lap.
Well, he is indeed. This is going to be. I mean, to be fair, you say he was already on the back. He is on the back of. I wonder here if Stapleford, do you reckon he's just going to try and. Is he going to try and make the move? Or is he going to try and sit behind and see if he can maybe close the gap up? Maybe slip up the inside, potentially on the last lap. We could have 2 laps to go here. The minute on the countdown is just about to go. But obviously, if they cross the line with over a minute left, they'll have that lap and the next. It's always +1 lap. So I'm thinking here, Jack McIntyre is going to want that potential position, unless he does make the move, in which case he'd rather it end. And obviously, there you go, he'll take the win, and off he goes. But yeah, look at the bottom right corner of your screen. Robin Walters is just all over the back. Well, I say that. I don't want Fairclough just yet, but he has dropped a little bit of time there to that is Stapleford. Whoa, that was again McIntyre trying to go around the outside. He does like an outside move, doesn't he? He tries to go around the outside, but again, he knows, and Epps knows, that he's just not. He's going to make it as difficult for him as he possibly can. And again, we've got Epps there trying to break the toes. We know how fast, and he knows how fast that BMW is in a straight line. Again, going around the outside. That's not going to work. It hasn't worked the last 2 times. I don't think it's going to work again, and it doesn't. So I wonder here, is he going to try and potentially put... Oh, I don't know. No, this is actually going to be the last lap. Look at the time. Oh, he's going to try and go to the inside. Epps has gone a little bit wide going through the last corner, but the drive of it. Look at the drive of that Alpha. He's already pulled about a car length back on him. So Epps is just driving this car absolutely perfectly. Do you know what? Like the flag hasn't been waved white yet. I think there's another lap after this, Dave.
Have they managed to cross that with about a millisecond on the clock, have they? Dear me. Yeah, that was a real unfortunate scenario there going into the last chicane. Or as we see, Mike Epps has missed his breaking point, gone a bit wide. Jack Mack in the lead.
Oh,
Job's done.
Absolutely job done. Although I'm sure, like I said, Jack wants this race to be over now. He wants the white flag to have been waved, and that's off he goes. Could that just be Epps sort of cracking under pressure a bit? I mean, the amount of pressure that he was being put under from Jack McIntyre was absolutely immense. And yeah, that has finally come through. But actually, I've just noticed, look at Robin Walters. He's P3. Will Fairclough must have had a moment or something. And he's dropped down into P6. So Robin Walters, he's inherited P3.
Yeah, so I was going to comment on that. It looked like coming into that last chicane on the previous lap, it looked like Robin Walters went up round the outside of Will Fairclough. Will Fairclough braked, slowed the whole thing down a bit, and then you had the likes of, I believe it was Robbie Stapleton and Dawn Brennan behind. That was almost just a steam train coming from behind. That wasn't anticipating how slow it was going to get through the chicane. Unfortunately, clattered the back of Will Fairclough's car. As Isaac's done that again there, I'd like to see Isaac back off here and just give that position back, which would be nice to see, which I believe he has. Fair play to Isaac there, that's good racecraft. Yeah, and unfortunately, just tapped the back of Will's car, ended up in the pit wall. Max Edmondson ended up there, but it's played into hands for Robin Walters. He's got that 1.8 second gap now over Robbie Stapleford. This is on for a dub podium for Robin Walters after being, I believe, P10, 5 minutes into this race.
I know, what a role reversal. Oh, that's Will Fairclough that he's gone wide through turn 11. That's going to open the door for turn 12 for Isaac Smith, and he has made the move stick. Yes, that is job done. Away he goes, and now we've got Will Fairclough and Andy Carroll now currently battling. The two Alphas that are battling side by side, or nearly side by side as I say that, so a drag race down to the last chicane. Who is going to be the first there? It is, I don't know whether Carroll, obviously the damage that Carroll's got is affecting his aero slightly. Well, that looked like he went very, very deep into the deep into the chicane, but
we didn't get a white flag. That's race done.
Oh, that was race done. Wow, and there we go. So apologies, everyone. We didn't actually get a white flag on the timing screens at the top, but we have there. Look at that. So we've got Jack McIntyre takes the win. Epps second. Robin Walters a stunning third. We've got their Stapleford as well in P4. Brennan P5. Isaac Smith in 6th. But Will Fairclough, do you know what? I think he'll still be happy with P7. That was a respectable position from him. He with the issues that he did have, he maintained them well, got his composure together. So yeah, I think he will be, considering what happened as well at the start, I think he'll be happy with that result.
Yeah, I got to admit, I think he'd be probably a little bit gutted about that. It was a case of he'd probably come around to us and say, what did I do wrong in that race? And sometimes you just can't help things that happen. A driver slightly misjudging the chicane, it just causes a bit of a steam train effect going through the chicane and tapped him with the slightest touch and put him off into the wall. So I think he'd be good about that because I think he probably thought there was a top 5 on the cards there. But yeah, Jack Mack to Mike Epps to an outstanding drive by Robin Walters.
Indeed, and we just had there, Dorman actually just got the move done on Mellors for the last, literally the last corner. So interesting to see that. And there we go. We have the full finishing results. So McIntyre does indeed take the win, actually a lap earlier than we thought. So again, apologies for that. We had Mike Epps in P2 on the last lap as well. I can imagine he'll be absolutely gutted with that. We're going to find out in a second when hopefully we do have a chat with him. But yeah, Robin Walters, the star of the show at the moment. And I think at the start of the show for this round, absolutely without question, win P3, Robbie Stapleford P4, Brennan P5, Smith 6th, Fairclough 7th, Carroll 8th, Edmondson 9th, Dorman 10th, Mellors 11th, Sutton 12th, and that does indeed round out your your race results for race 2. Dave, we have some people to chat to as well in the commentary box, do we not?
Yeah, well, the same people from race 1, apart from Mike Epps, isn't it? So, yeah, we'll jump down there and see what they've got to say.
Sounds good.
So, as we jumped out the commentary box, we got a P3, a double podium, and a drive from probably about 10th place on the grid, 5 minutes into the race. Robin Walters, what a drive.
Yeah, not too bad. I felt like it fell into my hands though. I didn't have to do much pushing. Just waited for other people to trip over themselves, and yeah, kind of inherited it more than anything. Feels like that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've probably been a bit kind to yourself there. I mean, you look at your lap times, and there was nothing to quibble about your lap times. You know, to lap the times you're doing to gain on the cars in front, you know, you've got to have a bit of pace there. But yeah, I mean, the start, you seem to make really good progress initially, and then you drop back a bit. I don't know, was that a collision with the car or a run wide on the brakes somewhere, or was it just one of them things where the pack gain and lose positions corner to corner?
I did have a little bit of side to side with, I think it might have been Andy Carroll, and just sort of fair racing really, just a bit of rubbing and just pushed wide off of I think the hairpin.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just a little bit of tussling sort of put me back a little bit, and then once I got clear, started to get the laps again. And I noticed throughout both races that I seem to have really good straight line speed, which was a massive help.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's interesting to see, and I believe provisionally, I think that puts you up into P3 in the championship overall. You know, so two stellar results there from this round has really brought you right up in championship contention there, really.
Do you know what? I'm not thinking about the championship. My only goal was to sort of prove that I can, under the right conditions, mix it with the big boys, and that's really all I was wanting to do today. And I think I've managed to sort of do that. And I'm not as quick as the other guys in all conditions, but the right conditions, the right track, the right cars, I can be up at the front.
Well, I think you've definitely proved it, and you should be proud with that round, because that was a stellar drive, and you definitely our driver for the round there with the results you brought in the drive. So, well done, Robin. Good luck going into the next round, and we're excited to see you.
Very much, Dave.
Cheers, Rob. And on to our P2 guy, which was almost our P1 guy, until the finale about 2 laps before. Mike Epps, what a stellar defensive drive, until turn 1.
Yeah, I thought maybe I can hold this, but I mean, I'm sure Jack will agree. I was holding him up so much to actually just maintain the lead.
Yeah.
God, this car around here is very boaty. I know we know it's the boat anyway, but that was really hard. In a straight line, it's just, you might as well just drop the clutch and
and let
it by. Yeah. So, you know, so many times I was sort of second guessing Jack on the brakes to make him brake early, or to make him, you know, or to give him a sniff of the inside line at the last corner and then just booting it out using the 4-wheel drive to stay ahead. But even then, he's still close enough to strike at turn 1, and I hit the ABS that doesn't do anything into turn 1. It's you could just feel it. It feels like suddenly you've gained 200 kilos of weight or something, because it just isn't stopping, and I couldn't come out of it quick enough. And gone we were. So never mind. Not bad considering there's been there was some definite. There were 3 missiles, I think, in that race. I'm not sure. There were definitely a few.
Yeah, I don't know what quite happened, but one of them was definitely Mick Sutton. I don't know whether that was maybe a tech issue, the speed he came into turn 1. To be honest with you, looking at the position from an aerial footage, it was a good job he didn't completely skittle the entire grid, if I'm honest. You know, he only managed to hit 1 car, so, you know, fair play to Mick for managing to get that to the inside and, you know, miss the majority of the grid. But, yeah, I mean, I was actually saying to Dan in the interviews that, you know, you've dropped the second place on the championship standings, but dropping 5 kilograms of weight out going into Spa isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, hopefully that'll make the difference. The car feels like it's about 3,000 kilos, but yeah, hopefully it will help us a little bit. But I've got a strong feeling that Spa is not going to be the place to get results in this car. We'll see how we go. Yeah. I might take all the wings off, as you said. Get the Allen keys out.
I think you've got a fair job. You've got a fair job on going into Spa. So, yeah, we'll make sure you get your Allen keys out and have a little tinker and hopefully be there or thereabouts. But good drive today, Mike, and we'll see you going into the last round of the championship.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Case of survival, really, I think today.
Spot on, Mike. It's been it. And on to our race winner. Yet again, a double podium, good points haul, and now take the championship lead. Jack Mack, you know, the car was there today, wasn't it? You really were driving the wheels off it.
It just felt really good. The car was totally under me, and I had a lot of confidence being able to race close with people. I think me and Isaac did nearly a full lap side by side just after the safety car, and then, as Mike mentioned, the missile started. I only just managed to dodge one of them. I saw it coming in the mirror and turned out of the corner, and it flew straight past. But
hang on a minute. You and Isaac doing a full lap. Did I hear that right?
Pretty much, yeah. You did, yeah. That was. I'm as surprised as you are, but it was brilliant racing. I think from Isaac, it was really good fun. I came out at the end of that lap with a smile on my face, even though it may not have been the quickest lap that we'd ever done.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that's one thing we're really taking away from this championship. You know, the cars, they're difficult to drive. The olden day cars, not with the aero of these modern day cars and the brakes especially. But at the end of the day, you get these cars sideways, you drift them next to another car. It's a spectacle on screen, and it has to be good to drivers, the way you're doing it, like a Mark II essentially.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, because you can slide them about and still be quite quick, it means that the margins for error are so much bigger. But then that means you can race a lot closer and get away with a lot more. Whereas in a big high downforce Formula car, if you make a little mistake, the other driver's just gone off into the distance. Whereas this, you can pull it back with a little bit of a little bit of luck and a little bit of good practice doing some slides. So yeah, look, it was a really good race, 2 really good results. I was contemplating just sticking behind Mike and not really pushing too hard for the championship, but I think like you said, the 5 kilos that Mike's going to lose if he's down to P2 in the championship is, sometimes that's all it takes to push a car between drivable and undrivable. So fingers crossed for next week. That's the one that matters. So try and get some practice in.
Yeah, well, great race today, Jack, and great points all, and congratulations on taking the championship lead so far going into Spa. But I imagine with the extra 5 kilos, yours is definitely going to be a bit more boat-esque going into Spa. But good luck with that, and we'll see you going into the final round.
Cheers, Dave. Thank you.
Cheers. There we go, Dan. A very, very dramatic race.
I mean, again, look at that. That was the start of race 1. It just went from... to be fair, I'm surprised that more cars weren't collected. It was... but all things considered, though, again, we've seen some amazing racing. Again, I can't wait for Spa. It's going to throw some spanner in the works, I'm sure, as we have seen. Epps doesn't sound too confident, but I'm sure he'll have the pace as well. We have seen him have the pace for the entirety of this season. And I just cannot get... I can't wait to get it going.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm honest, I was quite surprised. Hockenheim is the track. I thought the Alpha would struggle out the straight line. It wasn't too bad. You come to a track that's slightly more technical, it struggled. So we'll wait and see. I think Jack is definitely going to be the one to watch going into Spa, but we'll see how much the heavyweight hurts him. But yeah, what a round, eh? Full of drama.
It was indeed. It was indeed. And like I said, I'm sure this is going to be something of similar thing we're going to see. And I'd love to say as well, thank you, Dave. It's been an absolute pleasure. And also a big thank you to Mike Yao for, again, producing some amazing broadcasting, amazing camera angles that we absolutely love to see. But before, again, I would like to say as well, before we do sign off, if you would like to find out more about the Virtual Reality Racing Club, do head over to their website, virtualrealityracingclub.com. You can find out about the League of Champions, you can find out about all their other championships and what they have going on, and you can also join their Discord through the website as well. So really look forward to seeing you on the grid. Look forward to also seeing you as well for next weekend. We also have this that's kicking off on the... It's not far away, is it, Dave?
No, it's Saturday afternoon. So it's it's full, unfortunately. So anyone who's looking that wants to get involved, unfortunately, it's full up as of late last week, I believe it was. So yeah, that's going to start on Saturday afternoon after the minis. So the mini is also still running on Saturday morning. So yeah, if you want a bit of motorsport at the weekend, tune into VRRC or on the YouTube platforms for mini esports. And tune in there to have a full Saturday of motorsport, really.
Exactly. Well, in the off season currently for the real life motorsport, this obviously should hopefully fill your day up. Look forward to seeing you then, but we are going to have to sign off. So from myself, Dave Marshall, and Mike Yao in the broadcast booth, thank you very much for watching, and make sure you take care and stay safe.
in between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.